nearly $500 million in contracts for developing mRNA vaccines. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also hear from Leash Yu, a real estate and insurance expert, who will share his thoughts on the rising cost of homeowners insurance.
Plus, we'll also hear from acclaimed Bollywood filmmaker Vivek Agnihotri, who joins us to discuss his latest blockbuster film, The Bengal Files, which will premiere here in Houston this Sunday.
And as Celeste and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, questions, and concerns. So give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870, or email us, talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump presides over a peace signing ceremony today between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The South Caucasus neighbors had been locked in conflict since the late 1980s when an Azerbaijani region made up mostly of ethnic Armenians broke away with Armenia's support. Today's signing cements new economic and energy deals between the U.S. and the former Soviet states. The White House often promotes President Trump as an effective mediator in global conflicts. However, lasting ceasefires still elude the Trump administration in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Israel's announcing plans to expand its war in Gaza with the goal of ending it. The cabinet-approved plan includes taking control of Gaza City and setting up a power structure without Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. NPR's Emily Fang reports from the Israeli city of Tel Aviv.
Public opinion is split, and many people want the war to end. A poll of Israelis out this week found 54% of them want some kind of ceasefire to get hostages back, even if that means Hamas remains in power. And there have been dozens of growing protests across the country these past weeks against continuing the war.
NPR's Emily Fang. Israel says that it will distribute humanitarian aid to civilians outside the combat zone. However, it's unclear what that means since virtually all of Gaza is a combat zone. Meanwhile, Germany's chancellor says his government will stop sending weapons to Israel that could be used in Gaza. Here's NPR's Rob Schmitz.
Chancellor Friedrich Merz sharply criticized the humanitarian consequences of Israel's offensive in Gaza, saying that under the present circumstances, Germany will no longer approve exports of military equipment that could be used against Gazans. He added that Israel's intensified operations in Gaza make it increasingly difficult to see how goals like the release of Israeli hostages or the disarmament of Hamas could be achieved. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Germany supplied a third of Israel's arms exports between 2020 and 2024, second only to the U.S.
NPR's Rob Schmitz reporting. Democratic leaders across the United States say they are ready to fight back against President Trump's efforts to secure more safe Republican seats through redistricting. NPR's Ashley Lopez has more.
This all started with efforts in Texas to draw 5 more seats for Republicans. In response, Texas Democrats fled the state to stall the legislature's approval of a new map. In the meantime, Democratic leaders across the country are looking at ways to secure more seats for their party. California Governor Gavin Newsom wants voters to approve a ballot measure that would change their congressional map to add 5 more safe Democratic seats for the next 3 election cycles. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she's also making plans to, quote, fight fire with fire. Ashley Lopez, NPR News.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 176 points at 44,145. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. At least a dozen members of Congress of both parties are sponsoring bills that would ban mid-decade congressional redistricting like what Texas is now pursuing. But as News 88.7's Andrew Schneider reports, the chances of such legislation passing in the current Republican-led Congress are slim.
The trio of bills would bar states from redrawing congressional maps between censuses unless ordered to do so by courts. Houston Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher says most of the Texas Democratic delegation has signed on to one of the bills, which is now before the House Judiciary Committee.
This Congress has not asserted its authority. And more than that, it's kind of cheered on a lot of the efforts of the administration to take away Congress's power. And so I don't see this Republican-controlled Congress putting any check on the administration or on what they're trying to do.
Democrats have proposed bans on mid-decade redistricting several times over the past 2 decades, following the previous such move by Texas Republicans in 2003. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo has been censured by the Commissioner's Court. The motion was approved by a vote of 3-1 after a chaotic scene took place while commissioners were debating a proposed tax increase to fund childhood educational programs. Commissioner Leslie Briones was speaking when Hidalgo invited a group of kids to the floor to push for the proposal.
So yes, thank you. Especially to all the kids who took the time to come and all the educators.
Kids, come on down. Let's see if she says yes or no. Come on down over here. Come on, because this is not about politics. This is about kids.
Judge.
Come on down.
Judge.
Excuse me, Judge Hidalgo.
Judge.
Part of education is respect.
The proposed tax increase was eventually abandoned. Commissioner Rodney Ellis cast the lone dissenting vote on the censure motion. The National Oceanic Administration says it's sticking with its original prediction of an above-average storm season this year, despite no hurricanes having formed yet. We're entering the peak of hurricane season, but there is nothing threatening the Gulf right now. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include ARM. On the latest episode of Tech Unheard, ARM CEO and host Renee Haas talks to musician and activist Peter Gabriel about how tech and AI are helping to shape the future in creativity and innovations.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
2 out of 3 on a Friday.
2 out of 3. That's right. Thanks for tuning in today. Ernie is out. It's just
Ernie's off. It's the weekend.
It's the weekend.
It's you and me, kiddo.
It's the dynamic duo.
I know. We're ready to go.
We're ready to go. I know you're ready to go. But again, we want to thank you for joining in, whether you're watching us on YouTube or the radio. Perhaps you pull us up in your office.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we've already got some folks on our YouTube channel.
Wow.
I have Alex is there. Pi Sumuria. I don't think I've ever seen Pi Sumuria.
Good morning. No, but that just puts, Frank, when we get on and we start the show and we go to our YouTube channel, we look and see our community there. That's what Hello Houston is all about. Community.
Yes. And I've noticed occasionally you need to refresh if you sort of stick with us for 2 hours on YouTube. It starts to lag a little bit. So make sure you refresh.
Yeah. And keep those comments coming.
We love the comments, especially today.
Yes.
There's just 2 of us. We need your help.
That's right. Anybody want to join us? You can do that at 713-440-8870. But we really do have a packed show today. And obviously, we're going to have also special coverage of what's happening in Austin. We're going to continue to monitor.
Or Chicago.
I mean,
it's kind of like the connection.
Yeah.
When I was a boy, this is it's completely off, right? When I was in kindergarten, and you learned how to spell Mississippi, M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, crooked I, humpback. And my uncle said, and you know how to spell Chicago? I said, no. I was 4, right? No. He said, she in the car, and the car won't go. Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
That's an old, dumb Mississippi joke. But when you think about it, they're not going to go.
It is getting really heated, and we're going to continue again to monitor it. In right after at 1:00, we know Speaker Dustin Burrows is going to be gaveling in right there in Austin. We're going to have Houston Public Media reporter Andrew Schneider and Alexandra Hart joining us to give us the latest and update.
Yeah, they're really on it.
They are on it. And there's a lot to be on. So I'm glad that we have people in-house that know.
Yeah. Speaking of the weather, did you get the rumbling last night?
So loud.
I mean, right at the evening hour.
Yep.
Boom.
I mean, it just rolls in.
And I will say this. It is drier today at the coast, because yesterday it was already active at this hour at the coast. It's drier today than it was yesterday. So there's a chance for a shower, but I wouldn't cancel any plans. I think that
it'll be fine.
Plan on a good Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just hot temperatures. 95, 6, 7, and feeling even warmer.
And I think we're getting used to it. We
Well,
kind of
it is
expect
August.
it. It's August. It's that time of year. And we also know it's that time of year kids are going back to school. And so next week, as students head back to school, we're going to have multiple experts talking to us about education and how you can get into things. But
Back to school.
Back to school.
Hey, speaking of experts, Leash Yu, who
Yes.
Leash and I have done a lot of hurricane talks together. He would talk about building codes and insurance and what people should have to protect themselves, and then I would tell them why, because I would do all about the hurricanes, and so we made a good team. And I said we need to have Leash on as we get into the thick of hurricane season. So he'll be here in our next segment. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's a great guy. He's so super smart.
And the other part of it is that we're just seeing homeowners insurance is just skyrocketing.
I want to ask him what's going on.
Yes.
And then flood
a lot of us
insurance
do.
has become a little more egalitarian in that if you have been paying a lot for flood insurance, you may actually be paying less now. Whereas if you've been paying very little, you may be paying more. It's sort of a spread the wealth, because even if you're not in a flood zone, nobody can withstand 50 inches of rain,
right?
Even if you're not in a flood zone. And we're getting more of those kind of showers and thunderstorms. And so what he has to say about this will be really interesting.
It's going to be so interesting.
So don't go anywhere.
So don't go anywhere. But we're going to jump right into today's top headlines. So in 2020, during his first term, President Trump hailed the mRNA vaccines as a medical miracle. And that is a quote directly from the president to combat the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Now, today, his health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is effectively halting the vaccine technology's advancement. His reasoning, he says, the risks outweigh the benefits. Kennedy announced Tuesday that the federal government is canceling $500 million worth of mRNA research development contracts, putting an end to the U.S.-backed hopes for the vaccine technology to prevent future pandemics, treat cancer, or prevent flu infections. Is this the right move? Should the United States Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, be cutting mRNA funding? Now is the time to chime in at 713-440-8870. We want to hear from you.
And if you're a doctor, please, we would love your opinion on this. I think it's heartbreaking. I mean, it's proven for COVID and RSV, respiratory virus, for older adults. but COVID, it worked. Trump was hailed as this fast tracking.
Operation Warp.
Yes, Warp Speed.
Warp Speed.
I mean, it really, I think, saved so many lives.
Absolutely.
And they're researching it for flu, Zika, HIV, malaria, as you said, cancer, not just cancer, pancreatic cancer.
Which is pretty aggressive.
I mean, especially in young people,
right.
In their 40s and 50s. And to me, that's young. But, people, and you can't detect it.
Right.
But could you imagine a vaccine for pancreatic cancer? And if we owe it, we are doing so much damage to this world in so many ways. We owe it to the next generations to at least do what we can to keep them alive. And so I think this is a huge mistake.
I believe this is the wrong move. And we just went through the COVID-19 pandemic. The mRNA vaccine technology, allowed the COVID-19 vaccine to be developed.
Right.
Which they're not, saying that's going away. This is the mRNA vaccine. And it was released at a much quicker rate than traditional methods. And the technology was, again, praised by the president at the time. And I think when we're looking at it, for me, it's the mRNA technology will be critical if there's another virus and pandemic.
Absolutely. They're already out there.
How is withdrawing funds from research the right direction, I guess?
I know I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you I've known a lot of doctors, and without research, you will not find a cure. You will not find a vaccine without research. And without money, you don't research. I mean, it's that simple. That's why we have all these galas and all these fundraisers in Houston. It's for research for cancers and diabetes and juvenile diabetes and whatever's out there, because it takes money. And if you've ever gone to a gala and spent money for it, you rest assured that money is going to research and to develop vaccines and cures for diseases.
Right. And, I listened to the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy's announcement of this. And, he states he says a lot of very big medical terms that I am not a doctor, that I cannot necessarily understand. He just goes on to say essentially that, again, the risks outweigh the benefits. It's defunding of the research that has gone into this vaccine. We're going to hopefully have a medical expert to dive into that. It is also so interesting that August is International Immunization Awareness Month.
Of all months, right?
And that's a time, right, to look at the importance of vaccines and the impact that they have had on illness in a global manner and public health and preventing serious illness. And hopefully next week, again, we're going to have a medical expert to discuss. And if you have questions or comments about vaccines, you can send those to talk@hellohouston.org and send us those questions, and we're going to try to have somebody answer as much and get some clarification about this topipic.
Yes.
And again, you can join the conversation now, 713-440-8870.
I met Robert F. Kennedy one time down at Moody Gardens when they first opened. John Denver was the headliner, and Robert Kennedy came in because he's a big environmentalist. Yeah. And so Moody Gardens, it kind of played in. And I was doing a report on it for Channel 13. And he was a nice guy. And I was talking to him, and we were talking about the flamingos. And I, because I think I know everything, I said, "Oh, the flamingos, the flamingos turn pink because they eat shrimp." And he said, no, they don't. They eat beta-carotene. That's what turns them. But he said it in a very know-it-all way. I came away from Robert F. Kennedy thinking, you're a know-it-all. But you know what? He does know a lot. Yeah. I think he's absolutely wrong on this. Absolutely disagree. But he is a smart guy. I just think he is misdirected when it comes to medicine. Just because you know what turns a flamingo pink does not make you a doctor.
Well, what I thought was very telling and very interesting was that, President Trump had a briefing and he said, full stop, vaccines are important. And if you listen to Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy's message, he also said vaccines are very important. And so I think that people have broad stroked vaccines and think all vaccine. And that's where you get into that dangerous territory. And so I did think that was very interesting. Again, 713-440-8870. We did receive a text offline that says vaccine contract cancellations are shameful. They are cutting edge and important for quick responses to new threats. mRNA is a part of regular cellular processes, not something to demonize, which the right is doing. It was initially used in the SARS era, so there has been a lot of research behind it. And RFK is lying about the risk versus benefit. If the risks were truly worse, you would have a lot of people dead or injured from the vaccine, which hasn't occurred. So,
well said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Keep those comments coming, 713-440-8870 if you'd like to call. We're on YouTube, as you know, and you can always text us at that same number, 713-440-8870. I want to go to the story about the Astrodome.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go for it.
I love it. Harris County voters overwhelmingly support using public funds to renovate the Astrodome for use as an entertainment venue. That's according to Hobby School of Public Affairs, because it has some protection, the Astrodome, as an historical monument.
Wasn't it like an eighth wonder of the world?
So you can't just tear it down. People say, well, let's tear it down. Because we do that a lot in Houston.
We do that a lot, yeah.
Well, you can't just tear it down. So the most recent survey of voters said they would support the use of public funds as a public-private partnership. In fact, 62% support the move as some kind of entertainment venue. Mm-hmm. The Dome, which saw its last publicly held event in 2002, I think that's when people took the chairs out of the Astrodome, the seats from the ballpark. It's been vacant for years. I'm sure that
Ernie
it needs
had
to really...
some Astrodome seats in his office for a while.
But they belonged to someone who retired, and he took them with him. I wonder what they're doing, probably in his living room right now.
Maybe they're in his home office. You don't know.
So the Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation approved a study. It could easily cost $1 billion to do this. But people want it. They don't want to see the Astrodome just sit there, as it has literally for a generation.
Yeah.
I mean, now I've often thought we should rename it Discovery Dome. We have Discovery Green and we have Discovery Dome, and we have a rail line that goes to both. So when tourists come in, it would be a great way to get them to discover. It would be a good catchy name, Discovery Dome. Now, what they're going to discover, I don't know. You tell me. Ask Rich Kinder. He'll probably be the one giving us the money.
Right. It'll be like Kinder.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course.
I would love to see something actually really impactful come out of it. Now, I have a heart of service. Like, I volunteer a lot, and I think our community is so important in people that are in places that they can help others.
Yep.
I think that a portion of it, $1 billion is a big investment, and we know in a lot of ways we are financially in a deficit in the city. We're constantly looking at our budgets, and we're tightening our belt. So I'm not sure that renovating $1 billion, the Astrodome is the most economically smart thing to do.
If you get 1 million people a year, paying $20 each.
But what if it was like if we made a pie and we put percentages of people that would contribute and organizations that would contribute, and the city can contribute, the county can contribute. In fact, you brought in different places and ways people can invest, but then a portion of everything that goes through the Astrodome, if it does get renovated, has to go back to local organizations that are helping people here in Houston.
That's exhausting to hear all that. That's a great idea, but
it would be exhausting. Yeah. But collecting, grants, but making sure that there's a way that we could, if they're going to build these amazing restaurants and for these tourists and these communities, that we build out a nice restaurant for people to go eat a nice meal at a very low cost that normally would not be give to afford that.
Yeah, like restaurant weeks all year long.
Like restaurant weeks all year long.
Yeah,
exactly.
And give that money back to the food bank.
Give it to the food bank.
And some of these other organizations that are saying Doge cut their funds.
Right.
So it could be our strike back at...
It could be essentially, you know what? We are going to support organizations that make impacts here in Houston. Now, I know that's kind of pie in the sky, but I guarantee you there are people that actually look at these type of structural organizations where we can invest and give back to Houstonians.
Well, look what Discovery Green was, a parking lot.
Yeah.
It was parking lots. And look what it is today.
It's beautiful.
It's the center of downtown.
Discovery Green.
It's beautiful. It's surrounded by fabulous hotels.
They have parks.
The convention center has plans to get bigger. So why not make the Astrodome the Discovery Dome?
I like it.
I like it.
And you can discover your community.
That's right. You can
well.
discover lots of things. They used
art.
In Montreal, where they had the Olympics in 1976, they had a leftover dome. And it's become an ecological park. So you can take a tour through there, and it's basically a terrarium inside this dome. Now, that's a bit much for our dome, because we sort of live in a terrarium.
That's what I was going to say.
And we have so much at the Museum of Natural Science already that explores that, and Moody Gardens that explores that.
That's true.
But there's a lot we could do on so many levels at the Dome.
Yeah.
We could discover so much.
Their Discovery Dome. Frank, I think I could get behind that.
Well, I've been telling Ed Emmett that for a long time. It's still sitting there, so hopefully soon something will happen.
Soon. But again, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Leash Yu, a real estate and insurance expert, on the rising cost of homeowners insurance. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
King Appreciation. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
Hi, this is Matt Harrop. There's been a lot of news to cover in Houston over the last few months. Keep listening to Houston Public Media for the latest, and if you've got a car, truck, boat, or RV you don't need anymore, donate it to the station. It could be worth hundreds of dollars in support. The donation process is easy for you, and we'll pick up your vehicle in any condition. Here's how to get started. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. Thank you.
And when I got home, home, my mom said, "Do we need to have a conversation?" And I said, "I don't know, do we?" And she shrugged and I shrugged, and that was our birds and the bees conversation.
Join us for more True Stories Told Live next time, how we and our parents evolve. That's on the Moth Radio Hour from PRX.
You can hear that tomorrow at noon on News 88.7.
Support comes from the Elizabeth D. Rockwell Center, presenting Rebooting Our Relationship with Tech, a lecture series at the University of Houston, exploring the intersection of technology, society, and democracy. More at uh.edu/hobby.
Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
We are back. We're going to dive into this growing concern for homeowners across the country. Mm-hmm. The state of the insurance market, if you've gone to home, it can double on you.
Oh, yeah.
And be thousands of dollars. Skyrocketing premiums, shrinking policy options. Many are wondering what is going on. So we're going to have Leash Yu break it all down for us. Leash, I've personally known for a long time. He's so smart. It's you're so nice to join us. He's a real estate and insurance expert, a managing director at Higginbotham. Leash, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys calling me and putting me on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Leash, we were just talking about how home insurance premiums have gone up. They've gone up 10% since last year. And after, a similar increase in 2023. And for Texans, that increase could be even higher given the fact that we are in an extreme weather area. Yeah. So can you talk to us about the rising rates and how they are looking right here in our area?
Yeah, so 10% would be a dream for all of my clients. If they only got a 10% increase this year, last year, the year before, things would be really good. We're actually seeing a 30% increase, wow. And we've seen 30% increases since 2022. So if you do the math, 22, 23, 24, and then 25, you had a $100 bill in the year 22, it would be almost $300 in today's number. So if your homeowner's insurance was $1,000 in 22, it could be almost $3,000 a day. If it was $10,000, almost $30,000 a day. So it is a crazy, crazy situation.
So what do you do? I try to get mine down with a 2% deductible.
Yeah.
But you can go 3%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so in the crazy thing is that, you used to be able to use your homeowner's insurance for all kinds of maintenance issues. Either a window broke, file a claim. Your roof is, had hail damage, file a claim. You don't want to file a claim these days. And so one of the best pieces of advice that I can give people if they're with a reputable carrier is to increase the deductibles to an amount that, number one, your lender will accept, but number two, whatever you are comfortable with. Go as high as you're comfortable with and to see what it does to your premiums and see whether it makes sense to increase the deductibles. But that's the best way to combat the rising rates right now.
And we're speaking with Leash Yu, a real estate and insurance expert and managing director at Higginbotham. If you have questions about this topic, you can join us at 713-440-8870.
So you get the deductible up to try to get the cost of the premium down. We're getting to a point, Leash, where we basically have catastrophic home insurance.
Yeah.
A fire, a flood, which is a different issue, yep. I know. But a fire and a flood, and maybe a terrorist act, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy situation. We have a lot of people that just don't want to buy homeowners insurance right now. If you have a lender, if you have a mortgage, you have to buy it. If you don't have a lender or mortgage, you don't have to buy it. But it's really difficult to go without homeowners insurance because it covers this thing also. It just doesn't just cover your house and your contents, but it covers this thing called liability.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to buy liability coverage without homeowners insurance. So people, the smarter ones are like, well, we can't do that. We're just going to raise the deductible to catastrophic levels. Some of them want $1 million, deductible, $100,000. They just want high deductibles to try to get rid of this cost.
So you talked about maintenance, right? Going and if somebody says, I am maintaining my home and my home is all, up to date, does that help lower, those insurance premiums?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the big drivers of cost is old roofs. So you have an older roof and you haven't replaced it since you bought it 30 years ago. Your homeowner's insurance could be really high, and you can get a really decent discount if you actually put a new roof on it. So maintenance piece number one is a new roof. Air conditioners are the same way. If it's older than 10 years and you haven't replaced it and you replace it, some carriers actually give you a discount for a new air conditioner as well. Old plumbing, old wiring, if it's an original 1950s home or even turn of the century 1900s home, it may not qualify. But if you update that type of stuff and maintain your house like it's a new house, you definitely do get the best rate that you can.
And would you need to go through like an approved contractor? What is that process as well? If somebody's thinking, I'm going to make a big investment in my home and I don't want there to be any kind of loopholes that unfortunately my insurance is going to say, nope, sorry, it doesn't cover that, or it's not looking at that. What should people know?
Great question. So some carriers do require licensed contractors to come in and do your plumbing and your electrical. Other carriers, they understand that, hey, we might replace our plumbing ourselves. It might be a do-it-yourself project. Right. And so you really have to work with your insurance agents and your insurance companies to figure out exactly what is required from a maintenance perspective to get the discounts, the appropriate discounts that you're working on your house.
So we're talking to Leash Yu, by the way. If you have a question for Leash, you can give us a call, 713-440-8870. So talk to me about flood insurance, because there's been some big changes as far as what people are paying, some paying less, surprisingly, and some paying more, surprisingly. So what has happened with that? And where do you see FEMA now that we've had these changes in our government?
Yeah, so I'll answer the first question first because it's easier than the second question. So flood insurance is after October of 2021, FEMA changed how they rate flood insurance. In the city of Houston before 2021, if you were not in the high risk zones, you could expect a premium for flood insurance to be no more than $572. After 2021, FEMA made it more fair across the nation for flood insurance premiums. Fair across the nation and maybe in Kansas City is totally different than fair in the city of Houston. In the city of Houston, it doesn't matter what zone you live in. It could be thousands of dollars for flood insurance. So my home, we live in West G. Our street doesn't flood. We're not in the high-risk flood program or flood zone. Our flood insurance was $572 before October 21. If I were to buy flood insurance today, it would be close to $2,500 because it's fairer for the FEMA system.
Well, it's sort of spreading the pain.
Yeah,
and I kind of agree with it because although you and I don't happen to live in floodplains, you get 50 inches of rain, you're in a floodplain.
Yeah.
And that happened.
That's right. And so people in Kansas and Colorado who don't buy flood insurance, by the way, it is fair for them because those areas don't flood near as much as it does in Houston. But the folks in Houston are like, wow, I would have bought it for $572, but I don't know if I'm going to buy it for $$2,500. My street doesn't hold water, and it never held water in Harvey.
Until it does.
Until it does.
Those other areas, though, do they have other, they might... We're talking specific flood, but do they get hit in other areas like snow or, other type of extreme weather? And so it balances out a little bit?
Well, from a flood insurance perspective, I mean, they could get hit that hard. But say Colorado. Colorado has all the wildfires, but, wildfires are covered on homeowners insurance.
That's the other one I was reading about.
Yeah. And so that's a huge disaster that doesn't really affect us in Southeast Texas. It's a concern like in Austin and the Hill Country.
And the Panhandle as well.
But is it part of the FEMA pool?
It's not part of the FEMA pool
Okay.
since fire is covered typically on homeowners insurance. FEMA is covers flood insurance and things that aren't covered on homeowners insurance.
Okay, let's not get too far away from FEMA.
Yes.
Anyone that was affected by Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, they don't have a lot of nice things to say about FEMA.
Yeah.
So, and FEMA's in charge of our flood insurance.
Yeah.
So, where do we stand?
So to me, it's too early for me to understand the impacts on the budget cuts and the DOGE activities that are happening with FEMA. It'll be really tested if a storm hits and we get some massive floods. We haven't felt the any issues, although I can say that we've been waiting for new flood maps from the Harris County Flood Control District and FEMA since Hurricane Harvey. And if you've been around long enough, after Tropical Storm Allison, they said, hey, we got to do these flood maps. And it was a 6 to 7 year process.
That was 2001.
2001, right? And it was a 6 to 7 year process, and we thought that took long, right? So how long has it been since 2017 and Harvey? Right. And we haven't even seen preliminary flood insurance maps. And the rumor is it's because of all the FEMA cuts.
We have a question for you, Leash. This is Robert from Baytown. Robert, welcome to Hello Houston. What's your question?
Hey, thank you, guys. In terms of the Texas wind plan insurance, I forget the official name of it, but it covers all the coast until you cross over the Fred Hartman Bridge into Baytown, and it ends for the Harris County, but picks back up for Chambers County. Is there a reason for that? Is it because of Exxon? Is it a political reason? Why is Baytown not part of Baytown's coast not part and covered as part of that plan?
Yeah, so the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, the industry calls it TWIA, they cover the wind for what they call Tier 1 counties. And the Tier 1 counties are all the counties that are directly adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico. And so the areas that you're talking about, if there's a county change, so like closer to Houston, you've got Galveston and Brazoria counties that are Tier 1 counties. They're the counties that are directly adjacent to the coast. But when you cross into Harris County, it no longer is. You're no longer able to qualify for the TWIA Windstorm Association. Does that make sense? And so those areas that you're talking about, if you cross over and you're in a different county that's not adjacent to the coast, then your homeowner's insurance policy should cover you for wind versus TWIA covering you for wind.
And TWIA is going up.
TWIA is going up. It's going up. It's not going up as much as everything else, just because it's highly regulated, and the state runs that group, and so they're really sensitive to how much they increase those rates. But their coffers are really dry. So
That's right. And so the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association Board of Directors actually met back in 2024 and voted to increase a rate increase of 10%, and that went into effect this year, January 1st of 2025.
We could probably tell stories all day, but I remember in Galveston after Ike, there was a transformer that blew and lines fell on a house, and the house burned down. Well, the homeowner said, this is a windstorm, this is a TWIA coverage. And TWIA said, no, we're not the ones that made it the fire. The fire is what burned your house down, so you got to go to your homeowners. And the homeowner said, no, the reason we had a fire was because the wind knocked the lines down. And this whole, TWIA versus homeowners, how does one resolve that kind of, I know you're not a lawyer, but you've seen this before.
Oh, yeah, we've seen that before, not just on the homeowner side, but we see it on the flood insurance side, too, because the floodwaters come in, and there's an argument, did floodwaters knock it over? Did the wind knock it over?
Right.
So there's all these fingers that point back and forth to, hey, it's your responsibility to pay. No, it's your responsibility to pay. The bottom line is it ends up getting paid by somebody, and so it takes a long time for all of that stuff to kind of flush out, but it does end up getting paid as long as you have the proper coverage.
What's your advice? One of our reporters at HPM asked, what's your advice on inventorying your property in advance of hurricanes?
Yeah, that's a great question also. So I get that question all the time. But so if something happens and everything's gone, a lot of the carriers, including FEMA and TWIA, they'll ask you, what did you own? Mm-hmm. And it's impossible to, list every piece of underwear, every, pair of socks that you have. And so what I always tell people to do is take their phone and just walk through the house and videotape everything, open all your drawers, open all your closets, and just walk around the house, just so you can chronicle everything that's in there, right? And that upload it to the cloud, because if your phone floods, it's not going to be there. But if it's available on the cloud, if something disastrous happens, you review it, and then you can either show that to the adjuster, and if they make you give you a big pad of paper, it's much easier for you.
Well, and is it smart to say, here's my TV that I paid $4,000 for, as opposed to the TV over here I paid $300 for? I mean, should you say prices and have receipts?
Ideally, yes, but I mean that's a lot of work.
I know we don't. I know
just in case,
Yeah, Leash, I do have a question in regards to, we understand that extreme weather, all of the experts, and we're looking at, when we look at extreme weather, it's happening, and it's happening closer together in timelines. Do you think we're just in the new normal and people need to just kind of get used to the higher home insurance rates, and that's just the way it's going?
Yeah, I think, one of the big questions I always get, it's very related to that, is when are the rates going down?
When are the rates going down?
And I don't have good news on that, because historically when rates go up, they just stay up. And I don't think rates are coming back down. And whether it's more severe weather events or whether it's just people are building nicer, bigger, better things in the highly weather susceptible areas, I don't know the answer to that. But from a perspective of rates coming down, I don't know if they're coming down. I think the rate of increase will start softening, but I don't think we're going to see this. Oh man, we're going down 100% on homeowners insurance, back to the good old days. I don't think that's happening.
Well, it helps a little bit if the legislature will continue to bring property taxes down.
Yes.
Because when you go to buy a house, you put what's my mortgage going to be, what are my property taxes going to be, and what are my insurance premiums going to be. And if you add them all up as one piece, you kind of have your budget. Right. So if your property taxes are $1,000 and your insurance is $2,000, at least you balanced it to the $3,000 you could do.
Yeah.
Is that feasible?
No, it's 100% feasible, and I think we can all hope for better tax breaks on our property, and hopefully rates will come down. But again, I don't think they're going to come down.
But allowable deductibles, will those go up? Will lenders let those go up?
Yeah, they may have to start letting them go up. Most lenders will let you go up to 5% of the value of the dwelling, the insured value of the dwelling, and yes, they may increase that, but the question is, can anybody afford that? Can you afford a 5% deductible if something disastrous happens to your house?
That's a good question.
Most people can't, right?
Mm-hmm. And so what can homeowners start to look at besides, the upgrading? Do you have any good news for us? Because I was like, I'd like to talk a little bit also about
so the good news is 2025. So we've seen 30% increases since 22, 23, and 24. 25, they're flushing out more like 20 to 25%. So I think the market is softening. And if you look at the insurance carriers' financials right now, you're seeing some good news from the financials. They're catching up on all of the catastrophic losses that by the way, are what are causing this huge issue. But they're catching up from a premium perspective in being able to pay more of those losses now. And when they do that, the rate of increase goes down. So and also because of that, because of the softening, more carriers are coming into the market. And the more carriers that come into the market, the softer things get.
This is an interesting YouTube comment from Fritz Goldman. Our carrier insisted vegetation be removed 5 feet from the house. And a landscaper said that he's gotten that request quite a bit recently. Why is that?
So I don't know where he lives, but a lot of people, a lot of the carriers will require that if they're in the high wildfire prone areas.
So maybe even up toward Montgomery County.
Yeah, and typically the higher the wildfire risk, the further back they go. In Colorado, it's like 100 feet from the house. They don't want any vegetation. They just want rocks up against the house and no trees. And trees are a big problem right now. 15 years ago, we were in these insurance agent meetings, and they were showing us all this technology that, hey, we can do satellite imagery, and if there's trees overhanging your house, the trees are bad news, and we want you to cut them down.
If you saw the red roof house in Lahaina, it didn't burn down. When all of Lahaina burned down, the red roof house didn't, so you can Google it. But sure enough, they did it right. We have a call for you. Anna from Northwest Houston. Anna, what's your call for Leash?
Yes, I used to be an insurance agent. This was before, the 2012, everything that happened. But
you got out when it was good.
The FAIR plan, the SMART plan for all the states that the state-sponsored plans to get people that have no homeowners policies because you can't get them with a major carrier, so that they have to have that 2 years to be able to get with a big carrier. If most of the carriers are pulled out of a lot of states, I know that. But I was just also wondering if people knew that you can get, if you're a renter, you can get, or you used to be able to get, the flood insurance for just your property thing.
Right.
If you're in a place like that. So I just was like, that was just one of those things I was thinking, like, a lot of people don't know about insurance, and then also, like, filing a claim. A claim is only if something happened, an immediate thing, there's a time frame and all of that sort of thing, and a lot of people don't, if they haven't kept their house up, it's like a slow leak or something like that, and then filing a claim is just going to raise your, like, horrible premium already, and now that they've gone up so much, it's just one of those things, especially with a lot of older people.
Yeah.
Have lots of insurance and make no claims.
Yes. They paid for years and years and years and had no claims.
Thank you, Anna, for that call. Leash, do you want to respond?
Yeah, so the Texas Fair Plan, it's what the state of Texas calls the insurer of last resort. It is meant to insure homes and clients that have mortgages that can't find insurance anywhere else, maybe because of claims or the condition of their house. And so we utilize that as a tool, but only as a last resort, because the Fair Plan homeowners insurance policy, by the way, is terrible coverage. It basically, I tell people, if it doesn't burn down or blow away or get stolen, you basically don't have coverage. And so there's a lot of things that can happen to your house besides wind and fire and theft. And also it has become kind of expensive too. I mean, it's not the least expensive option. So don't think, hey, it's the insurer of last resort, they'll help me with cost. It's not necessarily so. Sometimes it's really expensive.
And we have another call, Sully from Sharpstown. Sully, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question for Leash?
It's a comment about insurance deductibles.
Yep.
When a hurricane comes, the thing that is at most risk, period, at most risk is your roof, okay?
Right.
The roof cover. And I don't know what the number is right now, but last time I looked, a roof cost about 2% of the value of the house.
Right.
So if you have a 2% deductible, that means the biggest risk that you have is entirely not insured.
That is correct.
After Hurricane Ike hit, I did about a dozen roofs for people. And there was one guy, I charged him like $8,000 for the roof. He got a check from his insurance company for $300 maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. Yeah.
That is something to think about when you think about deductibles.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Thank you for calling, Sully. Leash, what is your comment?
Yeah, my response to that is he's absolutely correct. And I had a 1% deductible on my roof, and I wasn't going to file a claim, but it was just interesting to know that I replaced my roof for pretty much right at the deductible with a 1% deductible, right? And so now most insurance carriers are requiring at least a 2% deductible. Some carriers are requiring a 3% wind deductible, and so in the trend that you're seeing here is that insurance carriers just don't want to pay for your roof, and they don't care what happens to it. I'll go out on a ledge and say this, and I think that pretty soon they're just going to exclude roofs, right? There's not just the increased deductibles, but there's this thing called the roof endorsement, where they start depreciating your roof if it's older than 10 years. So the 11th year, they're not replacing your roof, but by the time it gets to 20 years, they're basically saying, hey, we've depreciated 100% of your roof, so if it's 20 years old and something's wrong, you're paying for it anyway. I personally, and this is not my opinion is my opinion, I think the insurance carriers, they're going to just say, hey, we're not covering roofs anymore.
Man. Well, Leash Yu is a real estate and insurance expert and managing director at Higginbottom. Leash, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. We appreciate it.
Coming up, we're going to talk about a special film screening happening this weekend. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
You'll hear conversations with entertaining people like Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson,
I gave him one take, one sound, one voice, and that was it. Blah, 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 blah. And Matt, his eyebrows went up, his tongue came out of his mouth. He's like, oh my God, that's him, that's Bart, that's him. You got the part.
The most interesting people in show business tell their stories on Fresh Air.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future.
The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response, a way to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered.
Call 888-909-0887. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that.
Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Have you ever met a professional Santa?
Merry Christmas!
Or a Rubik's Speed Cuber?
Yes!
I'm Leslie Eiler Thompson. Join me for a summer road trip to discover how the niche interest can give us more than just mere enjoyment. It can actually save our lives. Tune in for Every Hobby Has a Story from the Niche to Meet You podcast and 8 p.m. American Public Media.
You can hear it Sunday night at 9 p.m.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
On Sunday, August 10th, the blockbuster Bollywood film, The Bengal Files, will be coming to Houston as the last stop of its U.S. premiere tour. Helmed by acclaimed Bollywood filmmaker Vivek Agnihotri, the film is the third and final installment in the director's Files trilogy, and like its predecessors, centers its premise around modern Indian history. Joining us now to tell us more about the film is Vivek Agnihotri. Yes, thank you. The director of the Bengal Files.
Agnihotri.
Thank you. Vivek, welcome to Hello Houston. And joining us from the organizing committee of the film's Houston premiere is Ravi Ranjan and Amit Raina. Thank you both for joining us.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
So something that immediately stuck out to me is how the film is described by words like modern and history. Can you elaborate on how these themes intersect throughout the film?
Absolutely. Vivek, I will...
Okay, so India...
Go ahead.
Okay. Is that question directed at me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so India is, as you know, is one of the... India is one of the ancient civilizations, perhaps the oldest continuously living civilization. So India can be divided into three different parts of history. One, the ancient history. Second is the colonial history, when there were invaders who ruled us and colonizers. And after that, independent India. So when I say modern history, it means independent India's history. Plus, the film intersects, it juxtaposes basically the modern history and the colonizing history, when we were colonized by the Britishers and Portuguese and French people.
So this film focuses on 1946, this
Right.
particular film.
Right.
So that history is a bloody history.
Yes.
So tell us what we can expect from this film.
So the India got independence in 1947. So this is kind of right around the time frame, and as you know, it was a very partisan time for the United India, when the two countries were carved out, because of the struggles. This particular movie is based on a particular event or a series of an event in a certain part of the country. So again, Vivek, being the director, he has the absolute insight. So Vivek, I'll deflect it to you to talk about, the background of the movie, basically.
Yes, which Vivek, where are you currently right now?
Okay, so every day we are traveling. We've been doing the premiere of the film in 12 cities. So right now I'm traveling. Last we had premiere in Detroit.
Oh, sorry.
So right now I'm in transit. As you can see, I'm in the car.
Okay, great. So you are currently in India.
No,
he's
in Detroit.
Detroit.
He
Sorry.
completed Detroit. He's doing Chicago, and then he's flying in to do the final in Houston.
Do the final in
we
Houston.
Started in July.
Okay,
and
yes,
it was,
tell us.
It was 11 cities. We are premiering in all major cities.
Mhm.
Started from New Jersey. So yesterday they did the California. Today they are in Detroit. Tomorrow they'll be in Chicago. Then Sunday is the grand finale in Houston.
And what kind of reception have you seen right here in the U.S. since premiering this film?
So we have done 9 so far. He's into the 10th one, and 11th is going to be Houston. All 9 have been sold out. Completely sold out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we are so excited about Houston. Houston, we opened the invitation only tickets. It was sold out in 2 days. So this is a select exclusive premiere.
Mm-hmm.
The worldwide release is happening on 5th September, where it will be thousands of screens all over the world. It will be released. We are lucky to have hosting this event in Houston, and that's why we are here. Just to let everybody know this is an amazing opportunity for Houstonians to watch.
And when you're looking at all of these U.S. cities and you're bringing your community together, what do you find most interesting about Houston? I mean, clearly you guys are having great success within other cities, but right here in Houston, what makes that unique to you all?
Houston is so diverse. I mean, it's the reception and the theme of the movie is such. He talked about the context. It's eye opener for so many people. It's a historical. So for me, I did not know the details of those events until I got to know more about the movie. So this is me who I consider well informed, and there are so many people like me who don't know about it, and it'll be a great opportunity when they watch the movie and what happened in those eras.
And why is it so important to continue to talk about 1946 and what was happening and bring awareness to that history?
Right. So this movie, if we see it, as we said earlier, it's part of the trilogy. So started with Tashkent Files, where we discussed, we talked about unknown truth, which has never been spoken on TV. The second was the Kashmir Files, which again spoke about the voiceless, brutal genocide which has happened in Kashmir. And this is Bengal Files. So this talks about the same thing which happened in Bengal in 1946. So this is important for all the communities, all the oppressed communities. It's not just for India. This will resonate with everyone in the world who has been oppressed, who is indigenous, who has been oppressed because of his faith. Mm-hmm. So this resonates well with that. And it brings in the horrors of 1946, which so far were kind of left under the covers so that people don't know about it. But as we said, Vivek ji is a very courageous and audacious filmmaker. So he likes to bring these things to the world.
How would you characterize what happened? By that I mean, was it a civil war, a religious war, a cleanse? It was horrible what happened. Yeah, but how do you characterize it?
Mm-hmm. So it was something which happened on the base of faith, and it has happened over and over again. It happened in Kashmir in 1990. It happened in Bengal in 1946. So it was not I will not call it a displacement, or I will not call it an unrest. It was something which was planned. It was a planned massacre based on the religion. Mm-hmm. And it has happened in West Bengal in 1946.
There are documented evidence of that. And again, I'll deflect it to Vivek ji, if you can provide some insight, because you know exactly what context it is.
Sure.
Vivek?
So, what happened in India? Yeah, yes. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes. Please.
Oh, Vivek, I think we lost you. You froze.
He's back.
Nope, I think we lost him. But this is, so when are you guys having the premiere here in Houston?
Sunday, 2 p.m.
Sunday at 2 p.m. And if somebody wants to learn more, where can they go to learn more about the Bengal Files, but the Files trilogy?
The mother of all places, Google Bengal Files.
Yeah.
You will get
Bengal
all
Files.
the information. But, we are the organizer for the premiere, and the movie is releasing on 5th September. So
September 5th, the Bengal Files will be officially released. Vivek Agnihotri is the director of the Bengal Files. Ravi Ranjan and Amit Raina are part of the organizing committee of the film's Houston premiere. Thank you all both for joining us today on Hello Houston. And Vivek, safe travels.
Congratulations on your success.
And coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Ricardo Mascara, who developed a comprehensive care clinic to improve outcomes for children with complex medical needs. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
Sunny, hot day today. We'll get up to near 97. It's 87, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into today's top stories, including Harris County commissioners saying County Judge Lena Hidalgo's efforts to pass a proposed tax increase disrupted decorum during Thursday's meeting. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also be joined by attorney, author, and former senior FBI official, Katherine Schweit, who'll discuss her new book, Women Who Talk to the Dead.
Plus, we'll share our weekly current obsessions. Hello Houston listeners can share their current obsessions or any of their thoughts on any of the topics. Just call or text 713-440-8870 or email us, talk@hellohouston.org.
You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal grand jury has issued subpoenas to New York Attorney General Letitia James, who won a civil fraud case against President Trump and his company. NPR's Carrie Johnson reports Trump has singled out James for public criticism in the past.
Two sources told NPR the criminal probe into James is being led by the top federal prosecutor in Albany. The DOJ wants more information from New York's Attorney General about her successful suit against Donald Trump and his business. The department appears to be operating under a theory that James may have deprived Trump and his adult children of their rights as part of that case, the sources said. Abby Lowell, a lawyer for James, called the new probe, quote, a blatant and desperate example of the president's campaign of retribution. Lowell says it appears to be a case of weaponizing the DOJ to try to punish an elected official for doing her job. Carrie Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
Israel's plan to take over Gaza City, one of the last areas of the territory not already under Israeli control, dominated Vice President J.D. Vance's meetings today in England. NPR's Lauren Frere has more from London.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Israel's plan to take over Gaza is wrong and says prospects for peace are, quote, vanishing before our eyes. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says his government will stop sending weapons to Israel that could be used in Gaza. Meanwhile, France, the UK, Canada, and others are preparing to recognize a Palestinian state. Vice President Vance says that's a point of disagreement among allies.
Obviously, the United Kingdom is going to make its decision. We have no plans to recognize a Palestinian state.
Vance spoke to reporters alongside UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy. The two say they're also discussing global economics and efforts towards ceasefires in both Gaza and Ukraine. Lauren Fryer, NPR News, London.
Texas Republicans eager to approve a redrawn congressional map in the state legislature will find out in a couple of hours if their Democratic colleagues are a no-show. If that happens, Governor Greg Abbott could find replacements should there be a court ruling that finds the Democrats have abandoned their offices. Gene Wu, the chair of the Texas House Democratic Caucus, spoke to NPR from Chicago.
Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton have no power outside of the state. If they follow the law, the FBI, President Trump, has no power to intervene in something that they do not have jurisdiction to intervene in. That's assuming that they follow the law.
The Democrats left Texas Sunday arguing that Republican lawmakers at President Trump's urging are attempting to cement their power in Congress by unlawfully redrawing the state legislative map ahead of next year's midterm elections. President Trump has said the GOP is entitled to pick up 5 seats in Texas. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 182 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Several family members of people who have died in the Harris County Jail grilled Sheriff Ed Gonzalez after a state commission meeting in Austin on Thursday. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno reports.
Gonzalez appeared before the Texas Commission on Jail Standards on Thursday morning to discuss the county's continued failure to meet the state's minimum standards on jail quality. After the commission's brief discussion on a remedial order to get the jail into compliance, more than a dozen friends and family members stopped Gonzalez to demand answers. The sister of Alexis Cardenas, who died during a struggle with officers escorting him out of the jail last month, told the sheriff her family needs justice.
How can you provide the security for us to know that you are the right person to be elected to be in your position? Because there is nothing going right. You cannot wash your hands off the blood of what my brother had to go through.
The families are demanding that the Attorney General's office intervene to get the jail back into compliance. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
Advocates in Texas are worried about the fate of a Biden-era program called Solar for All. It was created to fund solar projects for low-income Americans. Now the Trump administration may cancel the program. Margot Weiss is head of the Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute and says the program could help about 30,000 Texas households reduce their bills.
About 50% of Texans report that they struggle to pay their energy bills most months. So Texans are already struggling in an environment where we're projecting energy bills to continue to go up. So this is one of the few programs that was still out there to really help people.
Weiss says her group has not received confirmation from the Environmental Protection Agency that the cuts are coming. Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee issued a statement saying that ending the program is, quote, short-sighted and deeply harmful to the community. $54 million were scheduled to go directly to the county to fund the program locally. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour.
Yeah, that was a very interesting first hour.
It really was.
You know, I think that Leash had a bold prediction that insurance companies just may say, sorry, we don't cover your roof. Oh. If you have hail, wind damage, shingle damage, I mean, we should probably get some sort of insurance going with the roofers themselves if they stay in business.
That
and
is
say,
a good idea.
You know, say like, my roof is going to cost this much money. Can I add a little bit to that so that in 15 years I get a new roof?
Well, you know, full disclosure, I don't know a ton about this type of stuff. But Frank, do you think it could be possible? Like, do warranties at all kick in when somebody works on your roof and things like that?
You certainly can have warranties. And my roofer, in fact, made a claim for me because the shingles were falling apart a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so he completely replaced the roof at no cost. Wow. So yes, warranties do work.
Yes. And again, we enjoyed hearing from you. And in this second hour, we would love for you to join the conversation at 713-440-8870. I had to think about the number because I was worried. I was gonna
well, we talked about hurricanes, you know, with Leash. Yeah. I mean, if there's any good news, there's nothing. It doesn't look like.
Forming.
And I mean, this is the season, right?
Yeah.
September 10th is the day, the bell curve, September 10th is the day you would see something in the Atlantic. So we're getting toward that, and then it begins to edge out. But this through the month of September, and for Houston, October 3rd third, fourth, fifth. That's about our hurricane season is usually gone, usually over by then. We did have Jerry in 1989 on October 15th, 16th, which actually hit Galveston. But that is the latest date that a storm has hit the Texas coast, October 15th, 16th. So I always say, if we get past that, we're in good shape.
Right. But, I also think that, again, you're right, but we have to stay vigilant because we know that these things happen so quickly, Frank.
Especially with warm water.
Pops up on us.
Yeah, and the Africa dust, the Sahara dust has really helped the season stay quiet. But that's beginning to go away. So we won't have that protection. And the waters, that also helps keep the Atlantic water a little on the cooler side. Well, that's all going to go away. So now things are getting more and more ripe for something to, we've had a couple of things, Dexter, and it looks like a couple of things may pop in the Atlantic, but neither of those is going to be a threat to the United States. But that may change by the 25th.
That could change. So stay vigilant, stay informed, make sure you don't get caught out or, caught by surprise. Also, later on at 1 o'clock, we are going to be going into special coverage of the Texas Legislature, and we will have Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider and Alexander Hart, who have been in the trenches of this, monitoring what's happening in Austin, and as Frank pointed out, in Chicago as well. And so we will have that at 1 o'clock out of Austin. And Frank, any other weather going into the weekend that you can think of?
I just looked at the radar again. It's pretty quiet.
Okay.
A lot more quiet today than it was even yesterday. So we may get by with a fairly dry afternoon. Should be about the first one this week.
Yes. Yesterday, again, it was loud. It was very loud. And coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with attorney, author, and former senior FBI official Katherine Schweit about her new book, Women Who Talk to the Dead. I think that sounds so interesting.
It's all about solving cold cases. Ann Rule was a great writer who did that. So, and I'm sure that Katherine Schweit is a big fan of Ann Rule. But she's going to be a nice interview. I'm excited.
Yes, for sure.
Yep.
And moving right into today's headlines. A tax increase proposal to support a slate of education programs failed to meet a key deadline after Harris County commissioners said County Judge Lina Hidalgo's efforts to pass the measure disrupted decorum during Thursday's meeting. In the meeting, a flurry of children also packed the court. Hidalgo at some points encouraged the children to move to the front of the dais to hear whether or not the commissioners would approve potential funding for the education programs. And it got a bit out of hand.
So these are federal dollars sent to the state, sent to the workforce board.
Not enough money.
Be optimized and scaled, and they are on first to set up a new program without a detailed
We worked
plan,
with them to design
budget.
this.
Excuse me, please.
Falsehoods are not appropriate in front of children.
You should tell yourself that.
And then it continued to go back and forth for a long time. At one point, Judge Hidalgo was telling the kids, move to the front, yelling, and you heard children. And that was County Commissioner Leslie Briones going back and forth with Judge Lina Hidalgo.
I think she felt played.
What are your thoughts? Frank thinks that she got played. We want to hear, what are your thoughts? 713-440-8870.
Judge Hidalgo talked about this program on our show not too long
She did.
ago, and it sounded really good. I mean, a 1 penny increase to your property taxes to do a world of good for kids that need it. And she was trying to get that through, and she was using kids who would be affected as witnesses, I guess, as to what these are the people you can help. These are the people, the kids you can help. Why won't you help them? And that's a strong way to play politics. But maybe, and in this case, not effective. And then she was censored.
That's right. And so, as Frank was mentioning, the proposal would have given Harris County voters a say on whether to support a tax increase to continue funding certain child care and education training programs. The initiatives were previously supported by pandemic era federal
But that
federal
tax
dollars.
increase was like 1 cent.
Right.
I mean, it really wasn't very much.
It wasn't a huge, and then the backlash of this essentially was Harris County commissioners voted to censor Judge Lina Hidalgo after several exchanges in commissioner's court. A censor is a formal statement of disapproval, but has no bearing on Judge Hidalgo's position.
No, it just means we didn't appreciate your behavior.
But I don't necessarily appreciate Judge Lina Hidalgo's behavior either.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but bringing in kids to say, I get it.
Bringing it
but I think
in
you need
kids
to have,
is not. It's not a good look.
Well, I would think she would know before this came up whether she had the support or didn't, and it sounds like she didn't, and she wanted to strong arm those who were against this with feelings, with an emotion, and that just sometimes it works. I mean, people can people protest.
Right. But again, bringing in children to move your agenda forward and putting them in a very public, contemptuous area, I don't think that is the way to go.
Right.
And it just...
Because it's almost like she wanted to embarrass the other people into voting her way. Like, how can you look at these children in the face and not support this?
And I am all about supporting women and Latina in these positions. However, you know what? Like, not a good look, Judge Lina Hidalgo. Not a good look in my personal opinion. But
by the way, Ben sent us a text.
Okay.
Listening to the suggestion of, in all caps, Discovery Dome. My idea. And related, give back to the community. Great idea. Moody Gardens too expensive for the average working class family.
True.
You do need reliable transportation, and sure enough, that there is the rail that goes to the dome.
Yep.
Having a budget-friendly terrarium at the Discovery Zone would be a Discovery. It's gone from Discovery Dome to Discovery Zone. Would be a wonderful gift to young minds whose families may have less disposable cash. And then Denise Elric said, I like Discovery Dome. I really want the dome to be saved and redeveloped.
I agree. And so what they are referring to is in our opening first hour, Hello Houston, 11 a.m., we were talking about Frank's topic, which was the Astrodome, and how Harris County voters all are basically
$1 billion,
said
but
that they would support
62%.
Yes, 62% said that they would support the idea. Now, it would be $1 billion investment, and this was a study done by was it the Baker Institute or the Kinder Institute? But
I think it was the Hobby.
We have to look at our notes.
The Astrodome Conservancy, Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation approved a study in 2024 to look at the cost analysis.
The survey was done from the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs.
Yeah, Hobby.
So I want to clarify that was the University of Houston's Hobby School of Affairs. And what a fantastic idea, right? People are like, we will support it. And Frank's idea, I'll give you credit, Frank.
Thank you.
Was Discovery Zone.
But I didn't think of Discovery Green. I'm just playing all the Kinders already did Discovery Green. I'm just copying them.
Okay. And we did also get a text regarding the Hidalgo situation at Commissioner's Court. It said, from Dan, who said, was Hidalgo manipulating the kids during the meeting?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Apparently, those who censored her felt that she was.
So again, you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. We also did receive a
text about the Indian filmmaker.
Oh, yes. What is that?
I hope the Indian filmmaker will come to Fort Bend County, where he will find many people who share his heritage.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a strong Hindu influence down in Sugar Land.
In Sugar Land, absolutely. And then we also did get a text regarding the mRNA funding being pulled from...
I'll let you read this.
Yes, he said, COVID is spreading in our neighborhood in Sugar Land. My husband and I just suffered with COVID for 2 weeks. The urgent care centers have reported frequent cases in the area. Please report this. The latest vaccine was released December 2024. I recommend that folks get vaccinated if they have not been since then. It's definitely on the uptick.
Well, Malin from Katy makes a very good point about mRNA research. Even if one is skeptical, then research is the way to prove or disprove concerns. So cutting funding for this research is certainly short-sighted.
And again, 713-440-8870. We have covered a lot already this hour, from the mRNA vaccines to Commissioner's Court, and then coming up at the end of Hello Houston, we will have special coverage of the
Chicago walkout. What do we call it?
The walkout. What are we calling it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
She in
walkout.
the car won't go.
We also have another comment from YouTube, Mr. Wright 0510. It may have been a noble cause, but using children as political props is not a good look, in my opinion. I agree. Whether it could be the best idea in the world ever presented, don't get kids involved.
Well, I know. I mean, it's for the kids, and there's a way to get the kids involved. I just don't think that was the place for it.
That was not the place for it.
I was saying that I wasn't there,
right.
So.
That's right. But you know what?
I do like the idea. I would have supported Judge Hidalgo. I don't get a vote, but I would have supported a very minor 1 penny type of increase to help some of the money that's been taken away. And I think that's what we're all going to have to do. If we find programs that have been cut, and so many have, we're going to have to step up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there's a way to do that. And I'm not sure bringing, again, a group of children in was the right move. But Frank, what else we have going on?
Well, you probably heard, when I said, how far away are we from Trump sending in the National Guard to Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, and then the next day, John Cornyn announced that the FBI was going to ask the FBI to go in.
Yeah.
Well, he's saying that the FBI has granted his request to investigate and locate the Texas Democratic lawmakers who left the state in the attempt to stop the passage of the congressional maps, the redistricting. Spokesperson for Cornyn declined to provide additional details about the FBI's involvement. If you heard Ernie's excellent interview with Jean
yesterday,
Wu, this has been well vetted by Jean Wu and other lawyers. They feel like they are completely legal in what they are doing, and they've done it before. This is just everyone's just really posturing.
And everybody's really digging their heels in. And it's very interesting to see. I mean, the press releases are coming in like hot cakes. Yeah. I mean, they are just, everybody has something to say about this.
If you do, 713-440-8870. And then the memes out there and the comments, what does this mean, locate? You can't locate these people?
Yeah. But it's very interesting to me. We understand that when Governor Abbott called this special session, he used words like the sense of urgency, the importance of this special session, the importance of productivity. And it started with what is very much still on so many people's minds. We have not forgotten about the devastation that occurred over the 4th of July weekend. Right. People are still being impacted by that. There's still so much going on over there. And the 4 top first things of the agenda were those. And then we also understand another major pressing issue is THC and what's happening in that industry, in that space. And then redistricting came in.
Yep. And, you could look at redistricting and you could turn the entire state Republican in terms of the way you district it so that let's say you have 10 Democrats and 5 Republicans in a district. Mm-hmm. So you redraw the lines so that those 5 Republicans join other Republicans, and those 10 Democrats join 20 Republicans. And so no matter the fact that you have a district that was 50% more Democrat than Republican, you draw it in such a way that they have no voice. And that is not America. That is not America. And I have voted Republican. I have voted Democrat. I like to think I vote for the person I feel is the person for the job, which is pretty much the way we vote for mayor around here. We're kind of nonpartisan. Yes. Republicans vote for Democrat mayors. Yes. Democrats vote for Republican mayors. I mean, we try to find the best person to do the job. And but to not have a voice when everyone you talk to in your circle is voting the way you're voting, and then to find out, no, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You can go out and vote all you want. You're not going to be heard.
And I thought it was so fascinating to hear. Yesterday, we had a caller, Kenny, who called in and he said, I am a Republican. I have voted as a Republican. always. And he talked about the issue becoming one party becoming too strong and too powerful and controlling too much. And what makes our country is that we do, our own parties give that, checks and balances. Whoa, you can't do exactly what you want. We will come and figure out a way to do this that works for everybody.
Well, and they come divided because
that.
we all still get to vote for senator, and that can't be gerrymandered. Right. We get 2 senators from every state. So you can vote for the senator of your choice, and you can vote for the president of your choice. Right. So that's part of it. We have, by the way, a quick call from Nan at the Medical Center on the Hidalgo issue. Nan, what do you think about that?
Well, I disagree certainly with your assessment of it. The children, if they don't learn how to lobby for things that are designed for their best interest, and these children obviously recognize that, if you don't allow them to lobby for it, then, who do you listen to? You don't listen to their parents. You don't listen to poor people. You don't listen to anybody except, I guess, the folks who signed your paycheck. But that was a perfectly legitimate activity that happened in the commissioner's court. And if you haven't been paying attention, the commissioner's court regularly disrespects Ms. Hidalgo. And, that's on record. I've only been here 3 years, but I have never seen anything as ridiculously political as what goes on in that court. All of those people there, the 4 other people, are all against her, or at least 3 of them are, and it's all racist.
It's everyone but Rodney Ellis. Rodney Ellis seems to be on her side. Okay, we've got to leave it there. We're running out of time here, but thank you so much for that comment.
Yeah.
There was a text that said, back to the Chicago land people, Texas Democrats that left Texas have not committed any criminal activity. There should be no need for jurisdiction for the FBI to get involved.
Very interesting. And I just want to cap on Nan's point. She does bring up a really good point. Children were there to speak their mind and be present for something that's going to affect them. So again, we appreciate everybody for chiming in and calling and bringing a different perspective, because it is important when we have different thoughts that we all learn from one another. So again, Nan, thank you again for calling and sharing with us, and as well as Dan talking to us about Texas Democrats. And again, coming up on Hello Houston, what do we have?
Katherine Schweit. I know. She's going to talk to us about cold cases and her new book, Women Who Talk to the Dead. That's coming up. Stay with us.
With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Hello, I'm Nikki Beatty. Join me for this week's Arts Hour from the BBC. With American icon, Oscar-winning actor and singer Barbra Streisand, we hear from Nigerian music superstar Burna Boy, British author Gurnak Johal, German singer and actor Uta Lemper, and my conversation with Hong Kong director Elizabeth Lowe. That's all in the Arts Hour from the BBC.
You can hear the Arts Hours coming up tonight at 9 p.m.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, the new season of The Great American Recipe continues, with the home cooks trying to impress the judges with a dish based on a family tradition. Watch tonight at 8 on TV8 or stream on the PBS app. Support comes from the Eternal Gandhi Museum Houston, highlighting the power of nonviolent conflict resolution through examples of peace leaders worldwide. Now open. Field trips and group visits available. More at egmh.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
Women Who Talk to the Dead, Katherine Schweit's newest book, tells the remarkable true story of the largest exhumation effort in FBI history. It follows Detroit detective Shannon Jones and FBI special agent Leslie Larson, whose dogged pursuit of justice reopened more than 70 years of unsolved murders, bringing home to over 200 cold case victims once buried and forgotten. To tell us more about the book and her career, we welcome Katherine Schweit herself. She is an attorney, author, and former senior FBI official. Katherine, welcome to Hello Houston, and that's a pretty cool title. Yeah. Senior FBI official.
That's some credentials. You got the cred.
That
the
is
cred.
Well, thank you. It's a kind of a job. It's the job. You work your way into a job. You're just working, and you're doing you work hard because you believe in, the Constitution and your job and the people you have to protect, and you end up suddenly as an executive. It just kind of turned out that way, and I'm honored to have served in the FBI for 20 years.
I bet.
So, Katherine, as we look at that, you were the senior FBI official, attorney. How did that transition come to become an author?
I'm actually a journalist. In my old days, when I was a kid, I was a journalist. I always wanted to be a journalist because I watched the Watergate hearings, and I just thought that, newspapers, the Fourth Estate would be the ones. And so I did work as a journalist for a while, but then I moved on to become a prosecutor in Chicago and the FBI. But the writing really kind of called to me. And the person that you mentioned, who's from the FBI, Leslie Larson, who's the subject, one of the subjects of this book, is a friend of mine. And one day she was telling me about this story, about this thing that they were doing that they'd been working on for years. And I said, I have to write about that. I mean, we have to elevate this story, because even though it's a story about 200 cold case murders that spanned over 70 years, it's really, more importantly, a story about social justice. Yeah. It's really social justice for both the victims and the cities and the families who never even knew. These were murdered but missing people because they were buried in paupers' graves without names.
Wow.
And so, so often we hear about...
I was going to ask, these women that were murdered, it wasn't like a domestic murder and you've solved that case. These were people who just disappeared.
Right. They were people found, dismembered and burned in buildings, scooped up out of the river, frozen to death on the streets of Detroit in the middle of the winter. No name, no identification, babies, children. Oh. And they, men, women, a lot of people from marginalized communities, maybe people who didn't get the attention that they should have, whether because of the victim's socioeconomic status or their race, or because the city of Detroit is filed for bankruptcy a couple of times during that time. And the victims their cases just fell by the wayside. Mm-hmm. But the detective and the law enforcement from the FBI, the agent from the FBI, they felt this pull to justify, to protect these people. So it's really a social justice story.
So are we in the midst of trying to solve these cold cases, or have some of them been solved?
Some of them have been solved. We are in the midst. I decided to kind of cap the book at the 5 years. I've been working on this book for 6 years. Oh, wow. And I went out to the cemetery with them. I wanted the story to tell readers and listeners, it's an audiobook also, in ebook. I wanted it to tell the story of how this occurs, because so often we might hear about an exhumation to identify a person who might be a murderer or a subject, criminal. This is 200 people unearthed so we could identify victims and reconnect them with family members who disappeared, who they just disappeared, and the family members had no idea where they went. So in some cases, they have already, if you can imagine, knocked on a door and said, hey, do you know where your dad is? Oh, he left when my mom was pregnant. Well, actually, sit down. Let me tell you, just like in the movies, let me tell you, your dad was murdered in Detroit. He was the 11th victim of a serial murder, but we didn't know who he was. So he was buried in a pauper's grave 40 years ago.
Wow. So I'm guessing, I'm a big DNA guy. I'm guessing DNA has played at least a fairly consequential role in some of this.
Yeah, DNA is really why they decided to dig these, open these cases up, make them active. And they said, let's do this marker. If we don't have DNA, then we're going to go in, pull the bones, get DNA, because DNA really wasn't available, till the 80s. And it's still expensive to exhume a body, thousands of dollars. And so Shannon came to Leslie and kind of talked her into saying, hey, look, I work missing persons, but my missing persons are crossing over these murder victim cases, I think. So let's use any place where we don't have DNA. Let's dig up the bodies. And in fact, it's really kind of the forensic advances, because now they're doing genetic genealogy to identify other people. It was genetic genealogy that allowed them to connect after they got the DNA, to connect the 11th victim of the serial killer,
and you mentioned,
and identify her.
And you mentioned how, Leslie Larson, it kind of started, she was telling you these incredible stories, and you wanted to share this really cool part of these stories, but then also talk about the process. And as you were telling us right now about how y'all are able to go to family members of these victims and say, this is actually what happened. It sounds like these are stories of hope, but there's also a lot of stories of healing.
It is. I love that you bring that up, because more than anything, I've spent a lot of time. Detroit is my hometown, so this is very personal to me.
Sure.
And I live in the Washington, D.C. area, but I've spent a lot of time up in the Detroit area, both in the 5 years they were digging these bodies up over 5 successive summers. And then also with people who have family members who have been missing for decades. And it is their whole life in some ways. And sure. The healing that occurs. I mean, there's a person that I feature in the book whose mom disappeared when he was 14. His whole life he had in front of him, and how this effort, this tenacity from the police officers and the FBI personnel and all the other hundreds of volunteers and people who worked on this, how it changed his life forever when he was reunited with his mom.
So you talk about finding the victims. Has this led to finding some of the perpetrators of these crimes?
You can't really solve a murder, right? Unless you find the perpetrator. Right. So some cases, yes is the answer, short answer. And in some cases, I think Leslie and Shannon said to me, our first goal has to be to identify the person and reconnect them with their families. Because sometimes even a family member might be involved in a death. They don't want the murder solved. Maybe this was Roe v. Wade, before Roe v. Wade, maybe somebody left their child. They had a child and left the child on the street to die, and they have gone on and had their own family, and they don't want to be connected back with that. And if they can't connect them back for sure, genetically, people aren't going to cooperate. Witnesses die. That's part of being an FBI agent. The further away from the crime, the harder it is to solve. It doesn't mean that you don't have an idea of who it is. And I think they already have many cases where they have an idea who it is, and they're working with the prosecutor's office to see whether they can prosecute.
Wow. No. So what's the most challenging part of all of this? Getting people to talk?
I think that, they've identified about 35 people so far, which is incredible. 35 victims who have been identified now have a name and a gravestone that family can come to.
Is this 35 out of 200? The
35 out of 200 so far, because the DNA is still going to the laboratories. It's going to the FBI laboratory and other laboratories for testing to get the DNA work done. And then the genetics that have to go in the DNA genetic matching. And I think that challenge is that finding the genetic matches. So for this is something to consider. This is in Detroit. This is happening all over. This could happen all over the United States. It's kind of a simple roadmap. Leslie Larson from the FBI said to every department, call me, I'll show you how to do it. We'll come and show you how to do it. Every city has people who are missing, and you don't know where that missing person went. But when you say, what's the most challenging part? I love that question, because really, if there isn't a DNA match someplace in a database, we can't connect them back together. So you may have had somebody who went missing in Houston. They moved, their whole family moved to Detroit. Now they know that Uncle so-and-so went missing in Houston. if the DNA is in a database somewhere, and there is a Department of Justice database that's not the criminal database, NamUs, and then that database is useful to law enforcement all over the United States, essentially all over the world.
You know, when you were working with Detroit Police Detective Shannon Jones and FBI Special Agent Leslie Larson, y'all were figuring these things out, and you're talking and you're collaborating with a lot of people. Was there anything that really surprised you or stood out in the process as the three of y'all were working together to tell these stories?
I think that the logistical challenges, which Leslie Larson, who is an expert in digging up bodies, she maybe didn't see it as a challenge. For me, the idea of finding 200 bodies they essentially were buried in two different cemeteries along fence lines in the worst areas of the cemeteries that were underwater. I had no idea. They went out the very first month they went out to dig was in May, maybe 6-7 years ago now. And the whole end of the cemetery was underwater. They weren't even able to dig for the graves. They couldn't get the water out of the holes fast enough. And in addition to that, I wanted to tell listeners and readers without, being too graphic.
Sure.
I wanted them to explain, what does it take to exhume bodies? And in paupers' graves, for instance, they're buried 4 deep. So if Shannon says, I need this person who's on the bottom, they're picking up 3 other people. But, I found them to be so respectful of the bones, the boxes, the graves, the cemetery. And that was they just feel honored to be out there. And Leslie and Shannon both said to me, I can hear these people talking and they need us to talk for them.
Wow.
Who is funding all of this? It sounds like it is a project.
Yeah.
It's a huge project. The FBI funded part of it by bringing all their experts in from around the country. And to that, I think Detroit is forever thankful. In fact, the Detroit FBI is thankful that there was the ability to fund that. It just cost the money to bring an agent or an expert anthropologist in or evidence team member in and put them up overnight and feed them, right? But then in addition to that, a lot of it was just Shannon, her persistence, going out and knocking on doors, stopping at Detroit, the DTE, the telephone company, and saying, hi, can you bring a couple of your excavators over to this place in a couple of weeks? We want to use them to dig up graves. And the generosity of hardware stores to provide buckets and waters and water pumps. And, I think that's it. She just went out and said, this is for our city. Can you help us with this? And volunteers came out, provided food through 5 summers. So
wow.
The first summer was a little rough. So,
and
they didn't know it was going to happen.
Katherine, now given your experience, nowadays true crime mysteries and is such a hot topic. It's huge. People, and especially, would love to listen to that. In your experience, in your career span, and given the fact that you have such a diverse experience, why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that people are just so drawn to stories like this?
That's the true crime audience, I think, is very it weighs towards female. Mm-hmm. And I ask that same question of people with way more experience than I have, because my other writing experience is that I'm actually a mass killing expert. So the through line in my business is death, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you get an explosion, call me back. When you get a shooting at a school, call me back.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what I do in my free time. Now I counsel companies and schools. And the idea for true crime is that I think that there is a large portion of true crime audience that is female, and it's been brought to me this way. 2 points. One, they fear for their own safety, and knowing that other people can get justice, social justice can occur. Justice can occur, whether it's race, socioeconomic situation, regional situations, that their justice can be served. I think that women who feel much more likely that they could be a victim, they find confidence and comfort in that. I think that's one of the things. And then I think the other is just that women are tenacious, and they themselves, and they're meticulous, and they want to champion other people and see something to the end. And that's really what happens in a true crime situation where you're what we think of as reading about true crime, where some murder mystery is suddenly not a mystery anymore, or somebody gets vindicated for a crime they said people said they committed, but they didn't commit.
You know, you should start a podcast like Only Murders in the Building, you know, like they do on that show.
Right.
So let me ask you this, and this is strictly your opinion. Genetic genealogy and rights to privacy. It seems to cross lines and blur ethics a bit. Or perhaps do you think everybody in America should have their DNA on file? Probably make the FBI's job easier.
I certainly don't think everybody should have their DNA on file. DNA is like a fingerprint, and and you know, as an FBI agent, my job was to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution is you know, it includes all the privacy rights that are every individual. So I'm a firm, staunch believer in privacy, in the rights that we have immured within the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So I do think, though, that genetic genealogy is just like so many other things that, you know, we didn't think, you know, would get out there. The idea, I remember in law school studying the case law when people would take photographs of other people. And are you stealing somebody's image? And do you have a right to do that? And so every innovation technology and that technology brings us, we have to evaluate how it's allowed, particularly in light of genetic genealogy. You're actually not having the DNA of an individual. You're cross-referencing a bunch of DNA and then saying, this is who it must be, without ever having seen that person's DNA. And that is crazy to think of. And I think there will be eventually time in the courts or in the court of you know, public opinion, where we decide what's appropriate.
There, you know, we were dealing with families at the border being separated and children being separated from their parents, and had everyone's DNA been on file, you could have brought them back together as a family. So there are good things to having DNA on file.
Oh, yes. I agree. I mean, be clear, I completely agree. It's just like having somebody's fingerprints. We find somebody who's deceased or a lost child. If you have a photograph or a fingerprint, you can connect those people. You know, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what you do. You've reconnected family members. I completely agree with you. There's plenty of value in having DNA and files. And truthfully, there's how many people who spit into a tube and sent it to 23andMe and all these other places and gave millions and millions of people access to their DNA. So that DNA is all out there, and it's never coming back.
Yeah, mine's out there. Mine's all three of them: Ancestry, 23, all of them. Yeah.
And Katherine, before we go, I want to know, what are you most looking forward to when somebody sits down and picks up this book that they will experience?
Oh, wow. I've never been asked that. That's a lovely question. I wrote this as a nonfiction narrative, and I want the reader to want to turn the next page because they want to see what Leslie and Shannon are doing and how they're solving their next problem. They had so many roadblocks and they had so many wonderful things that happened. And I want the reader to say, I couldn't put this book down because I learned about DNA and I learned about genetic genealogy and I learned about police tenacity. And I felt for, maybe most importantly, I felt for these people who lost their family members, and I want them to be reconnected.
I am not surprised at all that a small team of dedicated women changed the system and, you know, went for those people that escaped justice and brought some justice to people that were marginalized. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, you know, sometimes we overuse the word closure.
Yes.
But that's really the end game here is closure, one way or another.
We're talking, you know, 30, 40, 50 years where people didn't know where one of their intimate family members was. And it turned out that, you know, they were just a few miles away in a grave. And that may seem like, oh, that's sad. But Shannon Jones said every single person that she gives a notification to hugs her and cries and says, thank you.
Wow. Women Who Talk to the Dead.
Women Who Talk to the Dead.
Katherine Schweit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And people on YouTube must be looking at your background. Those windows have a beautiful forest behind them.
I do. I live in this lovely bucolic area. It's gorgeous. Thank you. I know that you can see why I set my camera up here.
Yeah.
This is where I wrote. This room is where I wrote most of the book.
Nice.
Oh, that's
it's
great.
very peaceful looking. So.
Katherine Schweit is an attorney, author, and former senior FBI official. Her latest book is titled Women Who Talk to the Dead, and it is out now. Is that right, Katherine?
It is out. Audio, video, no video, just audio and ebook and print.
Excellent. Thanks again,
Thank
Katherine,
you so
for joining
much.
us.
Thank you.
It was lovely. Thank you for talking to me today.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to talk about our current obsessions, and we know that some of you already sent in yours.
Yeah.
So you can call us at 713-440-8870.
Finding dead people.
Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
You can hear that tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.
Public media belongs to all of us, but it only survives when we all step up.
With federal funds for public media cut, Houston Public Media has launched its Resiliency Fund. This is your chance to take a stand for independent journalism in Houston.
This is your moment to protect what matters to you. Now is the time to act.
Be part of this bold step forward. Support the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Matters is your essential daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston.
These counties have been growing a lot.
I think what has been holding us back is the fact that for 2 legislative sessions, schools didn't really get an increase in funding.
If the storm surge comes up the ship channel, that's a nightmare.
There's an acceptance at cons that you don't get elsewhere. No judgment, and it's beautiful.
I'm Craig Cohen. Join us for the next Houston Matters, weekday mornings at 9 here on News 88.7.
President Trump fired the Commissioner of Labor Statistics for what he calls rigged jobs numbers. The president says he made this firing to address incompetence, but can we really trust that the next commissioner is going to be picked for expertise and not for loyalty? I'm David Green. We'll talk this through with Moa Lathy on the left and Mike Dupke on the right. That's on the next Left, Right, and Center.
It's coming up this Sunday night at 5 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Díaz Schurman and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back. Before we jump into our current obsessions, we have gotten a ton of text about
everything.
A little bit about everything. Frank, why don't you...
Okay, we'll start here. I think introducing the members in charge to the children that could be helped is not unfair, given how the right to tend to use any means necessary to get their agenda passed. And introducing the kids to politics isn't terrible.
Right, and what that is referring to is earlier in the hour we were talking about Judge Hidalgo and
using children, using may not be the right word, but introducing children who could be helped by her 1 penny tax idea to the rest of Commissioners Court who didn't appreciate that. Thank you for still talking about COVID.
Yes, COVID is happening, and we're seeing surges happening throughout the nation.
I tried to get, this is frightening, I tried to get the Novavax this week. It is currently not available, so I'll be trying for one of the mRNA ones. Yep. Well, let's hope you can find one. I hope I can find one. Those of us who've had cancer we're kind of on the list to get these things.
It is very hard.
But you got to be able to find them.
Yep.
You
And
can't
then
just create 'em.
Jen from Clear Lake says, if what politicians are doing is something that children should not see, it's a sign that they are doing something shameful.
Well, there you go, Jen.
Jen,
thank you for
thank
that.
you for that.
Let's remember, this is another one. Let's remember what this fight is about. As someone whose lines have been redrawn around me, TX29, this is redistricting clearly. I feel like I will not be choosing my representative come election day. I feel like my representative has already chosen me. And I'm really glad to see the Texas House Democrats fighting for me. Lupe in South Houston. Also, I love Discovery Dome.
So yes, and so to Lupe's point, in a little bit at 1 o'clock, we will be popping up the house in Austin. We'll be going to Austin and seeing what is happening. And Houston Public Media, Andrew Schneider and Alexandra Hart will be joining me right at 1 o'clock as we continue to monitor the situation out at the special session Texas legislation.
Here's a very upsetting text.
Uh-oh.
I've been a mRNA study participant since the pandemic. I've been one of, not for that, but I've been a participant in one of these before, all led by the Texas Center for Drug Development, and just recently signed up for the next evolution of the COVID booster, an oral tablet. Sounds very smart, right?
Right.
An oral tablet. My first appointment was last week, but the study leader called the day after RFK Jr. announced the funding cut to notify all participants the study was postponed. Discourse. So they were trying to get a COVID booster vaccine, not through a needle, but through a pill, which Kevin is needle phobic. So he hates needles.
So his option
I mean, he'll do it, but he would certainly go for a pill.
Right.
But now that study, because of RFK Jr., who's not a doctor as far as I know, has been called off.
And one last text we said, Mary from Katy says, it seems highly hypocritical to me that Judge Hidalgo, who has been very sensitive about the way she and her office are addressed, particularly by Mayor Whitmire, would conduct herself with a complete lack of respect for others and the proceedings in Commissioner's Court yesterday. I hope the voters of Harris County replace her with former Mayor Anise Parker. And that was from Mark from Katy.
Well, there you go. Thank you for all the comments.
Yes.
And they're also poignant because people who listen to and watch our broadcast, Hello Houston, I think they're thoughtful people.
Extremely thoughtful.
They're here for a reason. And sometimes we all learn a little bit.
And even if they disagree with us and what we say, and if you disagree with Frank, let me reframe that. If you disagree with all of us, the fact of the matter is we can learn from each other.
Sure.
And it is important that everybody can say what they feel. Not everything that everybody says is fact. And we try to bring you facts here on Hello Houston. So when we bring you the facts and you get that information, you can make better decisions and have opinions on them. And we want to hear from you.
Fact-based opinion is important.
Yes.
Because I have a lot of opinions. I hope they're fact-based. I try. But I'm always willing to be brought to the task and say, hey.
And we don't always get it right.
Of course not.
We don't always get it right. But we appreciate every single
what's
person
your
that
obsession?
listens. Yes. You know what? My current obsession is Pamela Anderson.
Oh, Lord. My son's was when he was 13.
No, she is, a lot of her career has been focused on her body. And now she's a woman in her 50s and she's being seen as a different light. And she's taking control of her story and telling it herself. And I really appreciate that. What about you, Frank? What's your
obsessed
obsession?
with going to London and Paris, and that's where I'm going right now.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Have fun. And that wraps us up of our current obsession for the week, and that also wraps up Hello Houston. And we are going to now turn to our special Texas Legislature coverage. And joining me now are like I said, and we're also going to be monitoring the House, waiting to hear from Speaker Dustin Burrows. That will be happening in about 3 to 4 minutes. But joining me now in studio are Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider and Alexandra Hart. Welcome to, I guess, extended coverage of Hello Houston.
Thanks for having us.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about what's happening in the Texas Legislature. Andrew, why don't you just start us as to why today is different necessarily than Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday?
Well, earlier this week, Speaker Burrows and Attorney General Ken Paxton marked off Friday as the deadline for a number of different things. One, arrest warrants, civil arrest warrants for Democratic lawmakers who are out of state breaking quorum. Also, the prospect of beginning court proceedings against those Democrats who have broken quorum to try and have their seats declared vacant and they're having abandoned their seats. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of different possible consequences that could occur if the Democrats continue to break quorum and aren't present by 1 p.m. when the House returns to session today.
And so the other part of it is that when we're looking at this today, though, specifically, everybody is expected to come back and be in their seat. Is that right? And can you talk to us a little bit about, for those of us who don't know all of the technicalities of why today elected officials are expected to be in their seats versus, for example, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Explain that process to us.
Sure. There is currently a call of the House in place, which means that members cannot be absent unless they have a pass from the Speaker. The Speaker did provide that pass for the last few days. That will have expired as of 1 p.m. today.
So it's going to be very interesting at 1 o'clock. And, Alexandra, we have been obviously monitoring it from a state level, and we've been watching other states monitoring this, and this is really catching the eyes of the nation.
Right.
What can you tell us today? Other states, like we know New York and California, have been very publicly, outwardly talking about this situation. What do we know about today?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really kind of become a national story. You're sort of seeing these sort of like tit for tat between blue states and red states. Currently, Illinois, a lot of those lawmakers have been up there.
So Illinois has been chiming in.
Yes.
And what are they saying? And what side is talking about it?
So J.B. Pritzker, the mayor or the governor of Illinois, has, kind of said, try to come arrest these Democrats. You can't. Ken Paxton actually asked a court in Illinois to be able to enforce those arrest warrants. He's citing the full faith and credit clause of the Constitution. So it remains to be seen if that's going to be put into place, but right now, Illinois is not cooperating with that. And then, of course, we've heard that some Texas Democrats are now going to California today to meet with Gavin Newsom, who is also obviously threatening to do his own redistricting plan if Texas should pass this. So they will be holding Texas Democrats with Gavin Newsom will be holding a press conference later today. That's expected to be at 4 p.m. our time. So we're going to have our eye on what comes out of that.
Again, and we will be breaking to watch the call of the House that is happening in Austin right now. As Andrew mentioned, the Speaker Burrows did today have Andrew, what was the technical term for it?
A call of the House.
The call of the House, where today elected officials are expected to be in their seats, from what we understand. The Democrat elected officials who basically headed to other states have not come back. And it also, Andrew, can you tell us about what those Democrats that are in other states have been saying all week long, that they're really not scared?
They basically have been resorting to the old Texas flag. The State Representative Gene Wu, the House Democratic leader, has been saying, "Come and take it," whether that's referring to their jobs, their futures, and so forth.
Well, and what do you think is going to expect? I know you don't have, obviously, a crystal ball or anything, but in the past, we understand that the last time Democrats fled the state, it was 5 weeks, and that was back in 2021. They didn't come back for 5 weeks. When we're looking at this now, we do have some very pressing issues that are still on the docket, on, the governor's agenda. Do we know any kind of timeline and how long this could potentially draw out?
This could potentially draw out for weeks or even longer. The governor has the power to call as many special sessions as he likes. The current special session is due to end on August 19th, but as happened in 2021, the governor can immediately call another special session and then another. And when it looks like they're getting started.
They are getting started right now, so we're going to go to that coverage in Austin.
The House will come to order. Members, strict enforcement is requested by Representatives Moody, Raymond, Munoz, Mary Gonzalez, Longoria, Cortez, Martinez, and Morales. You must register from your desk. You may not register for any other member. Clerk, ring the bell. Have all members registered? There being 95 members present, a quorum is not present. The House and gallery, please rise for the invocation, which will be offered by Ron Joy of DPS.
Shall we pray? Gracious Heavenly Father, we praise you for your grace, your mercy, and love. We're so thankful that nothing in this life, in the present or in the future, not any power in all of creation, can separate us from your love. Lord, help us to cast all anxiety and fears upon you. Help us to trust in you and not let fear and worry distract us from the work you've given us. Let your peace, which transcends all understanding, guard our hearts and our minds. We pray for those who are still struggling with recovery and their loss of loved ones. Heal them and comfort them, Lord. We ask for your hand of protection for all of the students and those working in our schools that will be returning to school in the coming weeks. Thank you for the wisdom and protection that our governor, our legislature, and all of our peace officers around the state provide to ensure each child is safe. We pray for your protection for all of our first responders as they dedicate their lives in the service and protection of others. Help every man and woman here to not become weary in doing good, for your word encourages us that at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. The chair recognizes the Honorable Pat Curry to lead us in the pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the gallery, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flags of the greatest nation on earth and the greatest state in our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
And again, you are listening to Houston Public Media special coverage of the Texas Legislative Special Session. We just watched Speaker Dustin Burrows gavel in the call of the House, which Andrew Schneider and Alexander Hart are joining me now to walk us through essentially what is happening today and the importance of today's call of the House. Andrew, I'm going to jump to you first. The Speaker Burrows called 95 present, and you immediately had a reaction.
Right.
Talk to us about that.
Well, the previous time that they took a roll, it was 94 present, which means, and there are only 88 Republicans in the House. So that means that at least one Democrat has returned. Whether that Democrat was in state and had simply not been appearing for some reason, we don't know, or whether that Democrat had been out of state and returned from breaking quorum, again, we don't know. But either way, that means that they only need the Republicans only need an additional 5 Democrats to show up in order to establish a quorum and continue moving on with the session.
And I want to remind everybody, you're listening to Houston Public Media's special coverage of the Texas Legislative Special Session, and we will continue monitoring what's happening there. So if there is any activity that we think is important, we will jump to that as well. Now, Alexandra, you talked about how this really is making national news, and this type situation does have implications on other states.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about, Illinois is chiming in.
Right.
We know that New York has been talking about this, and
Right.
California. And I think we're actually going to jump back to the Texas Legislative Special Session to hear.
Absent members must also appear in person to approve or enact any of the following: requests for travel reimbursement, personal action requests, including those and House of Reproduction Services. Failure to appear in person will result in the cancellation of your newsletters and the encumbered funds. We have all hands on deck. We are continuing to explore new avenues to compel a quorum, and will keep pressing forward until the job is done. Finally, today, Dr. Greg Bonning will file House Bill 3, the House's priority legislation for flood recovery and infrastructure funding. Developed after 25 hours of testimony from Texans whose lives were upended by the July 4th floods. To those in California, Illinois, New York, or Massachusetts, wherever you may be, hear this. The bill cannot be referred to committee without a quorum. Every hour you remain away is time stolen from those Texans in need. Each one of you knows that eventually you will come back, and we will pass the priorities of the special session on the call. But with each passing day, the political cost of your absence is rising, and it will be paid in full. For the members present, I expect everyone to be here on Monday at the absolute latest. DPS is in the field to execute these warrants. Should they lead to the civil arrest of our absent colleagues over the weekend, you are on call. You will need to be available to return to Austin with a minimum of 6 hours of notice. Members, the call of the House remains in force. Under House rules, the House may adjourn from day to day. While I will call the House to order in a pro forma session tomorrow at 11 a.m., unless you receive a call to be here tomorrow because of DPS's good work, I will provide written permission to be entered in today's journal for each member registered as present during the session to leave the chamber and return 1 p.m. Monday. Members present today do not need to return until at 1 p.m. Monday. Members present today do not need to return until Friday. Until Monday. Mr. Guerin moves the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. Saturday. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, and the House stands adjourned.
You're listening to Houston Public Media's special coverage of the Texas legislative session. We just heard from Texas Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, gavel in the call of the House, and I am joined by Andrew Snyder and Alexander Hart, Houston Public Media reporters. You know, Alexander, right before we went into that cut-in, we were talking about other states and the effect that this could have. We just heard Speaker Burrows call out those, quote, in California. Right. What can you tell us? What did we hear about from California? I know the governor Newsom had words as well to say.
Right. Yeah. He is threatening, should Texas pass this, that California will do its own redistricting. And of course, that would be a disadvantage to Republicans. So kind of a honest, sort of a way to maybe balance out these seats potentially gained by Texas through this plan. That he said if Texas were to go through with that, and we've had other blue states threatening that as well. Now we've also had some red states saying they would consider doing the same thing as well. So it's kind of, you can see it kind of snowballing, sort of escalating, all of these states potentially undertaking their own redistricting efforts to sort of counteract what the blue states are doing and what the red states are doing. So this could potentially shake up a lot of maps. So it'll be interesting to see which states actually follow through with it. I was reading earlier today that Vice President J.D. Vance went to Indiana to meet with their state leaders. CNN was reporting that they wouldn't really commit either way, but there is sort of, it looks like in some places an effort to recruit more red states also as well to sort of get on board with this as well. And,
Andrew, we just heard Speaker Burrows. He just said, and I quote, "Every hour you remain away is time stolen in Texans in need." So here we have, he is being very vocal and saying that this special session, you're taking time away from stolen in Texans, Texans are in need. Talk to us a little bit about that and why you think that this is important.
Right. Well, this is the political box that Republicans have been envisioning placing Democrats in from the beginning of this process. When redistricting was placed on the special session agenda, it was placed behind several different items designated for flood relief and disaster preparedness. The Democrats have been saying up until now, if you considered this such a high priority, why didn't we take this up first? You have not issued any bills to deal with this, and there's no cost to be paid. Well, now there is a potential cost to be paid if this bill is put forward and it's not able to be even referred to committee, let alone voted on. Republicans can use this against Democrats, not just in the immediate term, but also looking ahead towards the next election.
And that's my biggest question, is there any way that this could backfire on the Democratic Party here in Texas?
It's certainly possible. I mean, this was actually one of the things that I was thinking about when we were debating the possibility of a quorum break initially. It seemed to me like if there was one strong argument against Democrats breaking quorum, it was exactly this scenario.
Now, Andrew, we also heard Speaker Burrows give 6 hours of notice. He did say, he used the words pro forma. Can you talk to us a little bit about the 6 hours of notice and then pro forma, what that essentially means for elected officials? And then he went back and forth on elected officials that were there today do not have to be back until, he said, Monday and Friday.
Yeah. Right. And I think the Friday must have been a misspeaking, because he had previously said Monday and then corrected himself. I think the 6 hours notice is simply to give members an opportunity to go back to their districts over the weekend if they choose, without necessarily paying a penalty. I think in terms of the conditions that he laid down for the weekend, it was essentially the same as the last few days. The idea being you are not expected to be here. We recognize your good faith. We recognize that you are likely to show up on Monday. We will not hold you to account if you need to go home to your districts, to your families, and so forth. But we expect you to be back in the chamber on Monday.
And Monday, what time will they be convening at?
I believe he said it was the same time, but I would have to double check that.
That's exactly what I thought. And you've been listening to special coverage of the Texas Legislature special session here on News 88.7. Stay with us for more coverage throughout the afternoon, and you can also head to HoustonPublicMedia.org to find more coverage from our government and political reporter Andrew Snyder, as well as our Houston Public Media reporter Alexandra Hart. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman, again with Andrew Snyder and Alexandra Hart. We now join our regular programming already in progress.
Lived in areas with high levels of lithium in the drinking water and reduced levels of dementia as determined by hospital records.
Yeah. So where do we go from here in terms of possible human trials or the future of use in people?
I think it's important at this point to determine whether we can determine who might be deficient in lithium at a very early stage by developing diagnostic markers, measuring lithium as well as other markers of lithium function in the blood or other accessible tissues, and determining if there are populations that are uniquely responsive to lithium and that are